When you work, you make a living. When you invest in real estate, you make your fortune. Being an 18-year-old woman in real estate, it wasn't easy, and it was a bit of an uphill battle, but the challenges were good. It was good for me.
We have Vivian Risi here. She's the founder of Your Community Realty. It's Canada's largest independently owned Royal LePage franchise. She's an award-winning brokerage owner. She also is a author of 2 phenomenal books. Welcome to the Mark Faris Experience. We have Vivian Risi here. Vivian is a real giant in the real estate community. She's the founder of Your Community Realty. It's Canada's largest independently owned Royal LePage franchise. She started when she was 18 in real estate and overcame a lot of challenges. I want to be talking a little bit about that today and diving in. She's an award-winning brokerage owner. Vivian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
Vivian, there's so much to talk about here, and your trajectory and some of the challenges you had to overcome to get to where you are. You know, I think that many entrepreneurs would look at you and say, oh, must be nice, right? But they miss that there's a lot of the amount of hustle that it takes to get to where you are. But I want to start maybe at the beginning. Let's go back to the very beginning. You're 18 years old and you're thinking about getting into real estate. Can we start at that, like the origin story of Vivian for those that haven't heard that yet?
Oh, that's really taking me back a few years. But you know what? Yes, I have, that's like vivid in my mind every day. How did I get here? Why am I here? What am I doing? How did I get into real estate? And really, at the age of 18, my dad was a builder, and he just built 1 or 2 houses a year. And I used to hear real estate talk. We grew up with that at our dinner table every night. He was in construction, then he started building. And it was something that I really was interested in. It really caught my eye and took my imagination when I would see, you know, why he would build a house and why we were moving so many times. I thought, why are we moving? Like we just moved in and now we're moving back out. And my dad explained that, you know, by building this house, we moved into a home, and this is how we built our equity. And, you know, we were immigrants from, you know, Italy, as we chatted earlier. We didn't have anything. So we came here with not very much of anything. So we were renting, sharing a home with my aunt and uncle that, you know, used to get sponsored over. And that's what happened. So listening to this conversation and growing up in that environment, I really learned to really appreciate the hard work and how creative my parents were and how people were in the industry back then, and how building equity was so connected with real estate. It was really huge. So that stood out in my mind. I thought, I've got to get into this industry of real estate. I was seeing things happening. Of course, at 18, I was married at the time. We saw things differently as well. And I thought, this is where I want to be. I want to be in this big business of real estate. And it was big. It was a man's world. I know your guy, and you're very much, about, women equal to women and all. But back then it wasn't like that, Mark. It really was not. It was a man's world. And being an 18-year-old woman in real estate, it wasn't easy. And it was a bit of an uphill battle, but the challenges were good. It was good for me.
Love that. So you come over from Italy, and you basically started really with nothing, your family, and you saw like the value in owning real estate, and then real estate is this big business, and it's super attractive. So it's like it pulled you in right away, and it was more of a man's world. Can you share an example of going back to that early stage of something that you had to, like a challenge you had to go through, especially being more of in a man's world? We've come a long way, and I'll tell you, some of our best leaders are women that I within the organization. I've just seen there's one thing that women do very well is there's an empathy side of it that is like super powerful in business, the ability to communicate effectively. But can you maybe go back, like for those, the millennials out there that are listening in some of the early 20s, it's like that would seem foreign to them. So like, maybe can you give like an example of something that you went through when you first started, maybe a story you could share to give, the listeners some context?
Well, one story that comes to my mind was, being asked to take clients, and it's all real estate related, for the broker. And I did. I legitimately worked hard and got lined up all of these homes. At the time, there was no internet. There was no, visuals. So I'd drive. I used to take a different route into the office every day to see what was for sale. And then I would go and I'd make the appointment and go visit, the clients, inspect the home. And then I lined all these homes. I showed this young couple, I don't know how many houses, but it was quite a few. And nothing materialized. And a few weeks later, I was shopping and I ran into them in the grocery store. And I said, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And they said, "Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, we bought that house that you showed us." So I thought, "Oh, you did?" I just had poker face. I thought, "Oh, that's great. Yeah." And I went back to the office and I said to the broker, I said, "Hey," I said, "I ran into, this couple and they bought the house." And they and he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh," I said, "but I did all the work." He said, "So?" I said, "Well, don't I get anything, any pay?" He goes, "No." And I thought, wait a second, why don't I get anything out of this? He says, "No," he says, "I just, it was an opportunity that you did the work." He said, I didn't say I was going to pay you." And I walked away feeling so defeated and used. And I thought, why would he do that? Anyways, I almost gave up. I have to be quite frank with you. I almost gave up. I was so depressed about it. I was so upset. It didn't last too long. I thought, no. I got back up and I started door knocking. I thought, I got to get out there. I've got to talk to people. So I used that energy and just went out and started door knocking. And lo and behold, I get a listing. And I go back into the office and I start bragging about this listing to the broker. And he was so not appreciative of my hard work. But, I to this day, I speak to him and I thank him for all that. I said, "You know what, Harvey, I would have never done what I did if it wasn't for you." And we chuckle about it, of course, but those were difficult times. And if I felt sorry for myself, I would never have continued on. I felt very depleted. And so that was one challenge I can say I remember. There's many of those along the way. And then another one was I was working on an offer for my father. And he's the home builder. And this was a complicated deal. I was selling off the plans. So it wasn't just a slam dunk, go show the house. It was working with these people for months, showing them the plans and, the finishings. And I finally got an offer together. And I went to present the offer to my dad. And the manager at the time that knew my family very well, and I had the offer in my hands, he took it from me. And I was like, wait a second. And it was just what he's typing. He goes, "I'll take that, thank you." And I was like, "But that's my offer." He goes, "I know, thank you very much. You can go now." And I was like, but I learned my lesson, right? You learn from these lessons. And moving forward, I think it's just being resilient, is taking the hits, not feeling sorry for yourself, and learning from the mistakes. I, learned from those mistakes. I consider those as learning curves. And moving, on in my life with business, it's a work balance act. Really, you really have to know how to balance your emotions, how to balance your work, how to balance your family. And that's really what I can share right now about what my past looked like.
Yeah, no, those are just great examples of going through a challenge and seeing it. You nailed it. You said, I thank him now, even though he put you through that, but you created a victor story out of that versus a victim story. And so that is such a powerful belief that I've seen in entrepreneurs that are extremely successful. It's that when there's a challenge that comes up, they see it different. They see it as like an opportunity, and you look back and you think, whereas many people would go look back at that, that first individual that would basically didn't pay you out on that walkthrough when they bought the house. And it was probably, there was a tone there too, as well, a belittling tone.
Yeah, there was a tone. But know what? You're right. Yeah. You're right, Mark. At the time I didn't look at it as an opportunity. I didn't. I just felt that I needed to step it up. I needed to prove myself. I knew I was up in an uphill. I knew I was in a big business. I was warned of that when I first got into it. Yeah. So I thought, well, you're going to be in this business. You want to make a career out of it. You've got to be strong.
Well, and this is where, again, like another lesson here is that it introduces yourself to another self. So that experience, if you didn't go through that challenge, you got two options. You can either fold, or you can be introduced to your, that stronger self that's saying, I'm going to keep going. And that is something that it's more rare. That's why entrepreneurship is not for everybody, because, those challenges come up over and over. And as you start scaling up, there's bigger and bigger challenges. And then what's interesting is you probably look back at some of those earlier challenges, Vivian, and you probably reflect and say, you know what, those seem so small now, right? But you've grown so much. Is that
They do, you know what? Yeah, they do. And then they don't, because I think if that ever happened today,
right,
that would not fly today. Okay. That was just, and even the conversations you had at the time. Today, we all watch what we say to one another. There's more respect between each other. But you're right. I think back and I go, I was more of I felt weak. I felt depleted. I felt defeated. Defeated was a word. And I thought, how do I do this? I can't be a guy. That's not who I am, but I can do this. I know I can. I know how I think. And I thought, I'm smarter than they are. I know I can think clearly. I could see things that they couldn't see. And then I would share it with them and they'd go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And they'd run with it. And I thought, oh, wait a second. That was my idea, but they're right. That's okay. You know what? I knew that I was on to something. So I learned how to process that and how to share my ideas if I had them. I think deep down he said to me, you're a visionary. He said, you have a visionary personality because you're kind of scary once in a while. And I said, well, no, but I can see how things are going to evolve here. And so we became, more respectful of ideas, but I learned how to communicate those ideas as well. I was very naive at the time. So learning through those mistakes made me a little less naive.
Yeah. And it's built up that muscle so that when those scenarios, if they ever did come up, it's like you'd be able to deal with it pretty quick, right? If somebody came to you and initially how you were treated, you build up. You
learn how to pivot, right, Mark? You learn how to pivot around. At the time was like, no, but now you go, okay, bring it on.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's where, for those of you that are going through challenge right now, just know that you are building up muscle. You're building up muscle, and you'll be able to look back on certain challenges that you went through. And that muscle, the only way you could have built it is going through the challenge, going through the fire, right? And that's where
the challenges you never learn, right? Everything looks like it's easy, but it's not. You said the right thing. It's muscle. It's like an athlete. You've got to keep at it until you get it right, and just have the endurance and you learn through the mistakes. Every time you fall, you'll pick yourself up again and keep trying.
It's a powerful principle there. So, okay, we have the beginning. You shared a couple of really good stories there, Vivian. Thanks for that. Let's move on. So you're starting to sell real estate. Let's go on in your career a little bit. When did you know you wanted to be a leader and grow this massive business? Like, was that always you're a visionary right from the beginning? But was it a moment? Was it a gradual thing that you said you want to be a leader? And then how do you pivot into leadership?
It was gradual. I'll be quite honest with you. I didn't think that I was good enough to be a business owner. I really didn't envision that because I didn't see that. I knew that I had great ideas. I knew I had ideas on how the realtors could be, better, the services, everything. I could feel that because I was in the trenches with them. I was them, and I knew what I needed, and I knew how I could grow and how I could really, be great at what I did, provided I had all these, it's a support. It's more of a support than anything else. I didn't need people to be there with me. I just needed the support when I needed the support. And that's very important. But I just felt that it just happened. Knowing about my background before I got into real estate, I had another business background. So not knowing that I was my apprenticeship, I call that my apprenticeship years, that groomed me to be in a management / owner's seat. I didn't realize that, but I was before I got into real estate, I was working in the health club business while I was going to school, right? So that, I had 3 jobs. I was always by the way, I always had 3 jobs, Mark. Okay. I worked.
Yeah. You always put in a lot of hours.
I did. After school, I had a job. At weekends, I had a job. My friends would go partying, and I didn't go partying. I went to work because I was just into this thing about working and growing my equity and watching my bank account. And I thought, oh, this is great. You know, I can do this and I can do that, because we were brought up to be very self-sufficient. So we weren't expecting anything. We thought, if you want it, you can get it, but you've got to go work for it. So we did what we wanted to do. If you wanted it, we worked harder. So had these jobs. And I was really good at what I was doing. I got super excited about working with, it was all women's health club that was just new in Canada. And I excelled. I was selling memberships without even knowing I was selling. I started off on the floor, and I got right into this industry, and I did so well. And the owner came in, he goes, I got to meet this young lady. And I was like 16. And he says, I heard a lot about you. And I said, oh, okay. I was very nervous meeting him. He says, you're really good at what you do. And I said, well, I really love helping people. Like, I really loved it. I loved seeing these women come in and helping them. And so he offered me an opportunity to be an assistant manager. I said, but I'm part-time in school. He goes, it's okay, you can do it part-time. So I didn't know where he was going at the time with this. I think he had his own, agenda of growing the company, which he did. And then the company became a public company. And at the time, I was very new. I didn't know what that meant. And so he gave me an opportunity to manage, which I did. And I learned very quickly how to manage people and how to manage a large number of people in more than one location. So I went back and forth.
You were 16 at this time.
Yes,
That's
I know.
phenomenal.
It is. Yeah. It's. And I think back, I thought, what was I thinking? Right? What were my parents thinking?
Wait, to me, it's like, how'd you do that? That's where, when I think 16, it's like, that's phenomenal.
It was phenomenal. And it was kind of intimidating, but I would never say no. I thought, yeah, I can do this, and I went for it. I did it. So that kind of groomed me without me realizing it was grooming me. But what I did was, there was an opportunity to buy a franchise. And I said, I have enough money saved that I can do this. So I convinced my dad to buy it in his name, because I was too young to be an owner. And so we did. We bought a franchise in Lansing, Michigan. Never been to Lansing, Michigan. But we bought this franchise there.
And what kind of business was it?
It was a all women's health club.
Health club. Okay.
Yeah. And so we bought this franchise. It was doing really well. And I didn't have to, I would just visit it once in a while with my dad. And it was self-sufficient because they had a great system going. And that was another, I guess, apprenticeship that I was involved in, that learning how to be a business owner. Eventually that faded, that all went away. And that's when I got into real estate. So going back to how I got into ownership. Well, the sales part was it came easy to me because I loved working with people. It's a passion. I never thought about my commission, ever. That never entered my mind. Sometimes I'd say, oh, I made it to this award level. Oh, okay. I didn't know. I wasn't following. I was just doing my thing. So I was always receiving, accolades in that area, awards, and it was very nice. But it wasn't my focal point. It was, great to have those achievements, but it wasn't the be all and end all. But what happened was, life goes on. I had 3 kids, and I found myself a single mom. And I thought, well, it was 1989, probably the year you were born. And
not quite, but yeah. Yeah, so about a decade away, but pretty close.
Okay, all right. But the interest rates,
the
market crashed. The market was really bad. 89, the rates were up, I think 18%. Market came down 30, 40%. It was really bad. So I went from making great income to not making such a great income. And single mom, supporting 3 kids, I needed to have a steady income. So I thought, look, I don't care about the money as much as I care about my family. My family came first. I needed to be in feet on the ground with my kids, to be there when they got home from school. So that came first. I thought, look, I have enough in the bank that I can live off of this till I get myself on my feet, but I need to watch my kids right now. I need to be there. So make a long story short, I wanted to be a manager. And they said no, because I didn't have my broker's license. So I started taking my course.
You immediate action. Just for those of you that are listening, look at how quick to action Vivian is doing. Oh, you need to go get your broker's license. You're not going to get it because your broker's is like, it was probably next day, I would guess,
Oh,
Vivian, that you had it.
yeah, I
That's
did.
it.
And
Yeah.
I juggled between
Yeah.
work and sales and school and so on. And again, there was no intranet and there was no Zoom meetings and there was no, and I had to drive into the courses. So I eventually got my broker's license, and I was one course away from the license, and I kept on going back, and I saw an opportunity. Well, the opportunity happened. The manager of the office left. The office was left abandoned. I got in my car, drove downtown, and I said, look, you need me. That office. That office is not going to be there for very long, and you need me now. I'm one course away. And they said, okay, give it to her. So I was given the management role, and I got my course done. And within 6 months, the company was sold. So there went my security blanket of my job. And the company was sold to a big American company. And all the offices were going to be sold off. And I maybe was going to have my manager's job, and maybe I wasn't. And I had to deliver the news to the realtors and to the staff. They had a big HR, meeting with all the staff. People were crying. Everybody was upset that they were going to be losing their jobs. And it was all new to me. I thought, I've never seen this happen. I'm in the middle of this chaos, but everything sort of settled down, and I was getting phone calls galore, Mark. You can imagine how the phone rings. So, agents, you get phone calls, everybody wants you.
How many agents at this point did you have in the office?
I think I had maybe 20.
Okay.
It wasn't a big office. At the time, offices were very small.
Yeah. But 20, I mean, you had 20 phone calls coming in, really upset.
Oh, 20 calls, but the staff. But then I had people calling. Well, there's more than 20. But anyways, I had the competitors calling. And this is where it became very stressful, because the competitors were calling me as well to get me to go to work with them. So there's all this, thing going back and forth. Everybody tries to woo you, offer you something to leave. And I just thought, no. This is a weak moment here. You don't make decisions like this. No. Just stay focused. And so I was calling the other managers to see how they were handling it. And some were handling it well. Some of them were not handling it well. And so what I did was I decided to call the few brokers that I respected in the industry, and I asked them if they wanted to buy the office and become an owner at this, because the offices were for sale now. They were being sold. So I called them, and they were all saying, no, this is not the time. We're in a recession. Thank you. And one broker in particular, Bob Armstrong, I'll never forget him, God bless him. He says, Vivian, why don't you buy it? And I said, me? I don't have any money. He says, well, you can figure it out. He said, you're one of the best salespeople I know. I said, well, but Bob, I said, this is a big jump. He goes, he said, you should consider it. So I did. I actually went home that night, and I thought, that's an outrageous idea, but let me see how that could work. So about 3-4 days go by, I give the president a call, and I pitched him with the idea that I could add value to his transitional, business venture on transitioning out of this corporately owned entity to independence. I could be someone that, the other brokers could come and speak to as an owner. And he said, okay, well, he said, let's talk terms. And I said, well, all my capital is tied up. I didn't have any capital, but I have to say something.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a vision. You're going to make it happen. So keep going.
It was tied up somewhere, but it was tied up. And I think he probably knew, but he did let on. And he goes, well, interesting. He said, okay, well, let's talk. And then it all became, fast forward. The accountants came in, 3 or 4 accountants came in. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. This was big corporate U.S. companies trying to, show me their books. And all I could say was, I didn't say I didn't know. I just said, let me look it over. And I would consult with my accountants, which I did. So I learned very quickly, don't try and figure it out yourself. Rely on people that know this part of the business, which I did. And to make a long story short, we negotiated a deal, and I became the owner of this small little brokerage. And Your Community Realty was incorporated 1994 and grew it from there.
So, okay, there's a few key nuggets that I extracted from that. That was so good. And I'm just going to underline the number one key trait I see with successful people is their ability to take action and to not let a roadblock stop them. They just keep on going. But one of the things you said that was smart, when everybody was jumping ship, you said, no, this is a weak situation right now. I'm not going to do anything rash. And so I think that's where, for anybody that's going through maybe a transitional period, like let the dust settle a little bit and make a wise decision. And it was interesting. You reached out to Bob Armstrong, and Bob, as a good mentor, he just threw out an idea, right? And so I think that when you're going through challenges, or even just on a day-to-day basis, surrounding yourself with more of these Bobs, in your case, this was some wise counsel. He threw out an idea that you wouldn't even thought of, but it totally it was like the light bulb went off, right?
Well, the fact that he put it into words, so he actually verbalized it, the power of words, that power. It was like, yeah, really? Me? No. Why not?
Yeah. Vivian, it's so funny because that's the exact way that I explained when I was playing hockey. I was put on waivers and I was still trying to find a hockey team. And one day Joanna says, Mark, you don't have to keep playing hockey if you don't want. And it was just a suggestion, but it totally, by hearing that, it just dropped the kind of the blindfold, and I'm able to see. So,
incredible, the power.
Yeah, just of an idea, and having people that, they see something in you. So that's where it's like your circle of influence on who you hang around is incredibly important, because, at the same time, Bob gave a really smart, some counsel here that was going to help yourself, Vivian. But there's people, sometimes you get in these circles and they have negative suggestions and negative, say solutions that will pull you down. So who you hang around with is important, and have conversations with.
Oh my God. Honestly, I believe in that so much. What you just said, it's the circle that surrounds you is very, very important. And it's really important that you said that, because that to me was my biggest support. Remember I said at the beginning, support around you is very important. That support is everything. If somebody believes in you, if somebody can verbally say to you, you can do this, and believes in you, you can do it. You've got the power to do it. It's just that you need to put it into words. Somebody else needs to put that into your head, and you can say, if they can think that of me, why can't I? Why not me?
Yeah. And that's where, for you, starting with that, on that principle or that foundation, and now you've built other leaders that pour into all of your team members that you have. I mean, currently right now it is over 1,300 realtors. So you must have found other leaders that have that same mindset of you, and when they're overseeing and they're leading other people, you can do it. So it's like, that chief encouragement officer, so to speak, right? So how did you build it up? Okay, so you bought the brokerage. You must have found other leaders that, to be able to service and to do such a great job, because you have a great reputation in the industry. But like, how'd you go from, okay, I just bought a brokerage that I didn't have any money for, but I bought it, to 1,300 agents, 12 locations right across the GTA? How'd you do it? What were some of the main steps that you took to get there?
The very first thing I did was start focusing on the agents. They were my clients. That was my first. Remember I said at the beginning, I had this vision of what agents needed. And when everybody else was sending the realtors home, the trend back there was to go be independent, go work from home, which is great. I looked at that and said, well, no, they need support. They need help right now. Right now, the rates are high. They're down. The market's down. They need training. They need to learn how to navigate through this market. And they were lost. So the first thing I did was I brought in training. Before training was even popular, I hired a trainer, came in from Mississauga. We would do a course every Monday. I remember going out myself, going buy bagels and cream cheese, get everybody into the office, open up I have these 3 closing rooms, they call them closing rooms, and they have these sliding doors, open up the doors, get the chairs out, and that room was full. That room was jam-packed every Monday. And from that training, the word started spreading. And I would have people literally walking in my office. I never made one phone call. Didn't have time. And people were walking in within, I would say, a year. I went from 20 to 50 agents. It was like, okay, this is really great. I mean, how's this? It was just, people were just walking in the office. They were saying, I heard about you. I heard about what you're doing. So I recruited agents. So I grew that part, but I still focused on the realtors. And then I found that other brokers started connecting with me. And then the monetization of that happened because then a broker said, look, I don't want to run my company anymore. Can you buy my office? Then we did a deal. So then from there, I moved into bigger space. And then from bigger space, I was up to about 80 agents. And then I was approached by a big broker saying, hey, how can you recruit when we can't recruit? What are you doing differently? And I said, I'm really not doing anything different other than servicing my customer base. And my customer base are the realtors. And that's when the conversation came in. And that's when I acquired, they offered me an opportunity to buy 2 offices, 3 offices. And I thought, here I go again. I thought, no, I can't do that. That's too big for me. It took me 9 months to make up my mind. I could have had a child by then, right?
Yeah, you're still learning that the world is your oyster and you can do anything, Vivian, right? So I guess at that point you're like, I still got to learn the lesson. So keep going. So you were questioning, oh, I can't do that, but
I can't do that. Oh yeah, no, this is way too big for me. No. First of all, it's like 3 other offices. These are competitors. They're going to hate me. We compete. They won't want me to be their broker. So that was like the scary part. That was scary, number 1. The intimidating part, number 2, was the numbers of agents. I mean, how could I manage these different locations? I'm okay with 1 location, but not all these locations. Anyways, the more I thought about it, the more I got comfortable, and I went from no to why not? You're going.
Love that. Why not? So good.
And then that's really the big spurt back then was when I acquired the 3 agents, the 3 brokers offices, and we doubled in size overnight. I say overnight when we did the announcement, but then from there, so we were probably at 200 agents at this time, maybe 180, if that. And then I just grew it from there, basically. It just, working hard, bringing on good people, bringing on the training, and, years of growth. We've been very fortunate.
So it's such a great story because it shares one of the most vital points in growing any business is that really focus on the customer. And Jeff Bezos talks a lot about this in Amazon. He talks about focus relentlessly on the customer and not on your competitor. And it's something there when everybody else was going left, you were going right, and you dove into the training and you realized that was the number 1 thing that they needed. They needed community, which you provided, bringing them in the office. But then in addition, it was like ultimately they needed training on how they could get through this challenging time.
Absolutely. They all had great qualities, but they just didn't know it. They didn't know how to put it into action. So they started learning how to work with the clients. And it's about listening to what your clients' needs are. Because if you're not listening to what your clients' needs, you don't know how to help them. And people needed help more than ever before. And that's what we started doing, is listening to the clients' needs and going out and getting the help that they needed to put these deals together.
Yeah. And then, loving them is at the foundation of any good business owner. It's like a genuine love of who it is that you're serving. If you have that, and you definitely have that tenfold, Vivian, but that just, it makes it easy to operate the business because it's like there's such a heart for wanting them to be successful. It's hard to lose when you have that sort of mindset. So I want to talk a little bit about your books. So you have 24 hours is all it takes, and then you have Yes You Can. So I want to talk a little bit about, how about that book, 24 Hours is All It Takes. So really you're dove into the mindset, the daily habits, the types of routines, how to make something stick long term. What are a few key nuggets that you can share with the listeners about that book?
So 24 hours is that one. I was writing that during COVID. I started right before COVID, and I thought I put it on pause because you don't just write. I'm not a writer to sit there and write a book. So I would make notes and tape record, and I have a ghostwriter, and I share ideas, and then we put it on pause. And then COVID hit. It's like, oh wow, how do we do this? Right? Everything's changed. Our patterns have changed. Our daily habits have changed. Our routines have changed. We're all like, hitting the walls, not knowing what to do with ourselves. But I maintained, daily habits, like hour to hour habits. I thought, no, I mean, I managed those changes very easily because I was fortunate, and we're fortunate, Mark, to have the screen that we could be connecting with our clients, with our agents, with everyone daily. So all I did was connect with people via Zoom. I was 24/7 on this Zoom, but I had developed my habits. And I thought, you got to take control of what's going on around you, first and foremost. Don't let it control you. And I think a lot of people fell into that, I don't know what to do, and it controlled them. And so taking control is very important of your day-to-day habits, and walking, like to me, is walking the walk. So every day my key thing is I wake up early. I don't even need an alarm clock. I just have that instinctive.
What time do you wake up, Vivian?
I wake up all the time. So what time do I get out of bed?
What time do you get up? Yeah.
I would say 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So then what's the routine? That's awesome. So what's the routine? Your some of these key routines.
So I shared in the book, like my routine. It's like really simple, guys. It's not that complicated. You get up, just the moment you wake up, you start doing. Just do anything. Just do something. So whether it's, doing a push up against the wall, or, just move around, get the body moving. That's very important, very healthy, and it's good for the mind, good for the body, get the blood flowing, and just get your routine. My routine was, doing that, moving around a bit, grabbing the coffee, going outside, looking outside, and just saying, hey, it's a beautiful day. The sun's coming out. If you can get a glimpse of that sun, that little glitter of sun, that just empowers you. You own the day. I love that part. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you can get up and just get that feeling of the morning when everything's quiet, the streets haven't started hustle and bustle, you're in control of your day. Yeah. So going back to the reason why I wrote the book was to help myself and to help other people and share with them the day-to-day habits, the moment to moment. There's no big secret. It's what you do every single minute of the day. It's your choices, what choice you make at that time of the day. But keep it routine. Develop new routines. Don't be afraid that, oh my God, the rug's been pulled from underneath me. What do I do now? I don't know what to do. I'm lost. Recreate yourself. Reinvent yourself. Reinvent your pattern. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's sharing those simple tasks that got me through that difficult time.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, that morning routine, for me, if I don't get it done before 9:00, then I found that it was next, especially if it's any sort of deep work. Cal Newport wrote this book, Deep Focus, and in there he talks about like the number one skill set in the younger generation, anybody actually right now, is the ability to get deep focus. And I found that morning time, like early before 9:00, if I don't get it, it's hard throughout the day. But this is where, for me, seasons are important as well when it comes to waking up. Like, sometimes it's 6, but if I'm in a season where I got to get a lot done, it might be like 4:00. I got to get up because I want to get my window of massive focus time in. But that's the only way that sometimes you can really move the needle. But the routine of doing it day after day, it makes it so that it's less, we'll say, taxing on your willpower, because you're not you pre-decided, right? Are there any other tips that you would say that would help a listener create better routines, or to maybe say routines that could stick? Because it's one thing to start one day, but then what are some things that can help a routine stick for longer, or maybe a habit? So that's more of a longer term solution.
I think repetition is to me very important, to repeat the routine, keeping it, trying to stay on target at the same time every day. Repetition is important because you become better at it and you automatically will do it. And it's not like you're not being conscious of what you're doing. You are conscious of what you're doing, just that you're doing it better. Every time you do it better. And really focus on what you're doing. Really, say, hey, I've got this cup in my hands and this is really good. I'm really enjoying it. Instead of like letting it go by you and wonder what you're losing and what you haven't done, right? You just enjoy that moment to moment. And you learn how to appreciate things in a more valuable way. Things become more of value. And from there, you become a better person. I believe so. I believe you become more appreciative of the world around you. And it doesn't sound like I'm la. No, it's true. So you've got to be appreciative and enjoy the moment. A lot of people just go. They don't even know what they just did. And they don't know why they did it. They're not even enjoying it. And they go, oh my God, I've got to do this. No, it's like, I've got to do, I wonder what it's going to be like this time. Oh, okay. I'm going to enjoy this and really get fulfillment and say, could I do it better? No, I kind of like the way I did it and it feels really good. Maybe I don't really like it. It's not my priority, but it's got to get done. So get it done. Get it done. And then go reward yourself, whatever that is. I believe in rewarding yourself very much so. So again, keeping those targets of reward as your focal point, because I think as humans, we should reward ourselves and give ourselves a pat on the back for getting it done.
Yeah, that's so good. You said something there earlier. There's a couple of things that really stuck with me. It was all good, but one of the things that you're a master when it comes to building relationships. And one of the things that I see that you do so well, and you just said it, it's like if you can be in the moment and so not be doing like, it's like, you just use the coffee as an example. I'm enjoying this coffee. It's like when you're having a conversation, that's one thing I've recognized with you. It's like you're wholly in the conversation. I mean, you have this big, massive enterprise, yet when you're speaking with anyone, it's like you and I are the only ones in the room. You're not checking your phone. You're not like, checking your emails. And that's one of the things that I found with like master relationship builders is like they're 100% present and saying that you are important with my attention that I'm giving.
But you are though. People are. We find, we look what we went through during COVID. We stopped relationships. Didn't you say to yourself, and I know I did myself, wow, I really miss those people. I really miss people. I really miss that person. I miss, I never really talked to that person enough. Next time I'm going to engage because I really miss interacting, right? That's really the eye opener to me. I'm thinking, wow, we shouldn't take those things for granted ever again. So yes, engaging and really focusing on who's in front of you. Everyone's important. Everybody brings value. Whether my sign guy, okay, people think, why do you like that guy in your office? Because he's a sign guy and he's a good guy, and what he has to say is important. So he'd walk in, and I'm in an office with windows, right, with glass. So anybody can walk in, they'll wave at me and I'll wave back. So I'll be in an important meeting. The sign guy would come in. The sign fell down. Do you think I should? To me, it's important that I address that sign guy's question because it's important to him. It's important to me. If I do that, wait a minute. Okay, I'll be right there. But it was important. So everyone has something important to say. And I believe that we should be listeners, good listeners. I always say to my kids, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak. Because if you can hear what people are saying, really listen to what they're saying, you're now able to really communicate on a high level.
Well, 100%, Vivian. And what I found is that no matter who you are, even if it's somebody living off the street, you can learn something from everyone. You just got to look for the lesson.
Absolutely.
Right? And
yes.
this is that sign guy that's coming in. It's when it's not easy to do it. That's where you see somebody's true colors. One of the things that we do if we're in an interview is we're interviewing somebody, maybe it's a new agent or somebody for the capital business that we're doing. We'll actually go out and have a lunch and see how they actually treat the server. And let's see them out in the real world on how they treat somebody that's serving them. And I think when people aren't looking, that's where you get to see those true colors. And I totally agree with you. And you know what? It's something that when you hit a certain level of success, this idea that you're bigger than you truly are is it can easily get to one's head. But all you got to do is remember back through all those early challenges and realize, you know what? That could happen at any given time, right? And so you got to, everybody is equal, right, in their approach. And I think if you come from a learning mindset, that really helps. Yeah, but I love that example. All right, so your other book is written. It's called Yes, You Can. What can you tell us? Is there maybe a key nugget that you can share with the listeners on that book?
Well, yes, you can. I'll be honest with you. I wrote that more for people around me in my circle. I was always getting asked, "Oh, how did you do it? Did somebody give you the business? Oh, it must be nice." Remember we said, "But oh, it must be nice." Yeah, right. It doesn't just happen, right? How did you get where you are? And I was getting asked that question a lot by my circle of realtors. And and every time I tell them the story of that, they say, "Well, you should write a book. You should really be writing a book." And so what happened there was I went to the Tony Robbins event, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to introduce Tony on stage, right? So I was like, first I said, "Oh, no, I can't do that. There's like 8,000 people in the room." I did the same thing. I can't do that. The guy goes, "Well, if you don't do that, somebody else is going to do it. And you know, it's an opportunity. And really, all you got to do is read the script. You know, it's all written down. You don't have to say anything. You just read the script." And I thought, oh, yeah, I guess I could do that. So I did. So I went on the stage and I was introducing. I built this, big momentum. 3:00 2:00 in the afternoon. Everybody been there since 8:00 in the morning. So the big guy is just going to arrive in the room, and he's a big guy. He's really big.
Yeah, bigger in person for sure.
Yes. So I get on stage, and Mark, and I'm doing my script. I'm going to follow the script, and it's really great. And I've got my agents are in the audience too, and everybody's excited. The big Tony Robbins is coming in, and all of a sudden the MC comes and puts a note in front of me on the podium and says, "Tony's not here."
And how many people are you in front of?
8,000.
8,000 people.
8,000.
Okay. So what'd you do in that moment?
Tony's not here, and I looked at him and I did like one of these, like as if like for role playing. "Oh, really?" I said, "So what are you saying, that Tony's not here?" And he's stuck in traffic. "What's going on here?" And he goes, "Yeah, Toronto traffic." "Oh, okay." So then we all of a sudden start role playing, and I'm sweating and thinking, somebody pull the fire alarms, do
Please
something.
help me. Somebody help me. I need to stall. Okay.
Yeah, let's let this whole thing stop. But that didn't happen. So he starts dialoguing and then starts asking me questions, and we start convincing, because we had, thank goodness, talked a little bit in the back, and he was a comedian, a well-known comedian. So he was funny. He started telling stories about, recreational real estate and being on the tubing and the waters, and how the tubing, so everybody's laughing. The audience is hysterical. He's asking me how I got into real estate. So my story started coming up, and the audience was really engaged in the story. I thought, okay. So, where you're on the stage, you've got this big clock in front of you. The clock is ticking 23 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I thought
8,000 people. That, for some people, that would give them nightmares, the thought of that.
23 minutes. It's Tony arrived, thank God.
Yeah.
Tony, they go, "He's here, he's here. Oh my God, he's here. Yay. Thank God, get him on the stage." So he gets on the stage. Everything's great. It was ecstatic, funny, and it was good. We had lots of fun. I sure knew how to, ad-lib my way through that one. I thought, phew, made that one go away quickly. And thank goodness for the collaboration. It's important how you collaborate with people. Another thing, collaboration. Collaboration is very important. So there was a book publisher in the audience, and that's how this book came about. So he said, "I'm a publisher. I want to meet with you, blah, blah, blah." And this is how Yes, You Can came about. And Yes, You Can really is an anecdote story about my beginning, how I got into the business as a young immigrant, and how real estate came about, and how my company ownership came about. So it's a very, short, simple story of that.
That's great. And such a great story. And, if you didn't say yes to going on to introduce Tony, you wouldn't have been put in that awkward position. The publisher wouldn't have seen you, and you wouldn't have written a book. And what's such an interesting principle to really understand is that when you say yes and when you take action, when you just start moving, it is crazy how all the dots connect. And sometimes just random doors would open up that you would never see if you didn't take action.
Oh, no, I would never have imagined ever that could have happened. But you're right. If I would have said no, which I did, but I said no because I didn't really think I really wanted to do it. But then, yes, you can. You can do that. And I did. But look what happened. Like you said, unplanned, unforeseen. And then, lo and behold, here's this publisher. And I was very fortunate to be in that position at that time. And that's, it was fun doing as well. It was a fun process.
I'm sure your agents and that were watching, they probably really appreciated how you handled that stress because
They thought it was an act. Okay,
oh, really?
I thought it was funny.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you were really good at that. You did a really good job.
It wasn't me. It was a comedian. He was great.
Yeah.
He did the whole thing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Vivian, what do you think? What are some of the key traits of a great leader?
A great leader to me is someone that listens to people, listens to everybody at different levels, because there's different levels of business, and collects all the information. And a great leader doesn't, if they don't know what they don't know, will go and find out from people that do to collect, again, information. And then a great leader is collaborating, but ultimately making the right decision for the collective, the bigger group, because sometimes you can't always make everybody happy. But if you really consciously make the decision, it's got to be conscious decision making based on all of the facts, but knowing what you know, that everybody will appreciate your decision if you do it properly. And that to me is leadership.
That's such a great principle. And so just to recap on this, is listening to people, collecting the information, and then making the decision. So we in our companies, I talk a little bit about that, but it's the way that I explain it is like collecting the dots and then connecting dots. Collect dots, connect dots, collect dots, connect dots. And the power in that is listening, but looking for opportunity, and then actually taking action. Like you're part of the decision making. You got to take action on what it is that you hear. And Vivian, and business, that's a big, I see that being dropped quite a bit. It's like people know what needs to be done, or they hear some feedback on how to fix something, but they just don't take the necessary action to connect the dots and, act and decide on it.
They wait too long. Sometimes they wait too long. And if you wait too long, it's too late. Taking action at the right time is really important to ensure the better of all, because sometimes the decisions you make, they're not for yourself, they're for everyone. I always think of, how do I keep everybody working? How do I keep their jobs intact? How do I keep everybody engaged? How do I do this? Because, with the new technologies and AI coming out, like it's kind of scary, it's intimidating. How do we do that? So that's what I do today is I engage, I talk, we communicate to ensure that we're doing the right thing. We're not leaving ourselves short, but at the same time, we consider everybody that's involved on how it's best to transition, because it's a transition and people don't like change. We know that. They do not like change. So having people to work with you in the change, so you don't have this, locking of horns and arguments. I don't have time for arguments. I'm all about getting it done and getting it done right, and having facts that back up the reason why you're doing things so people understand. I think if people know why, they're good with it. But it's when you don't explain things that they are afraid of why you're doing it.
Yeah, that's a powerful principle there. It's like if you want some, a lot of times just no, do it. It's like, well, if you understand why and okay, what needs to be done, and maybe you can role play, here's how you could do it, or maybe you come with the solution, then what's in it for you? I think that's where that going over that transition change management is so much better.
And you're respecting them too, regardless of their position. I think everybody's owed that respect and consideration, regardless.
100%. So Vivian, you got into real estate, seeing the power in like building up equity. After all these years being, growing an enterprise now with real estate, do you still believe real estate is a good place to invest?
Yes.
Why?
Real estate is, fortunes have been made in real estate. Okay. When you work, you make a living. I've said this before. When you work, you make a living. When you invest in real estate, you make your fortune.
Oh, if you just listen to that, please do a rewind and just like play that over and over and over.
It's factual. I've lived it. I was in a place where I didn't have anything. I lost everything. And if I didn't have that little bit of real estate that I had nurtured, I wouldn't be able to have done what I did. So real estate doubles, as we know. History says, and we watch all the trends, even when the market's bad, it doubles every 7 to 10 years. Equity doubles every 7 to 10 years. How long does it take you to save that kind of money after taxes? A lot longer than that. That's why it's so important that this country gives opportunity to first-time buyers. It's critical. It's critical that they do, because these young people, regardless, they need to get into homes, but they need to have ownership at some point, because they can't keep on working just to pay the bills. They need to have a little nest, so that little nest, while they're working, can also grow, and they can build their retirement or their kids' future. But it's so critical. I believe in it so much. I've lived it. I believe in it. So yes, it's proven over and over again.
We're in deep agreement on that one, Vivian. Vivian, what are you excited about right now?
Oh, I'm excited about change. I really, as much as it's crazy, I'm really excited about where the industry's taking us. We need these changes. We need to shake it up. Okay? People getting their license just because they think they can sell real estate. Well, guess what? License doesn't mean you're qualified to sell anything. I mean, you and I see that. If you don't understand the business, you don't have the right skills, don't bother. And people recognize that. So I'm excited about the change. I'm excited about being involved, being part of the change. Excited about getting our people involved so that they can all learn these changes and really understand it, so that they can start implementing the changes in their industry to grow their business. That's what I'm excited about. I really am. I look at this business as being one of the best industries in the world, but you've got to really know your priorities and embrace the change.
And when you say change specifically for the listeners that maybe aren't in real estate, is it the real estate industry related in regards to some of the rule changes? Is that, or is it just overall change in general and how technology and AI? Yeah.
Everything in general, like even the shopping, everything's changing. Our world is changing.
100%.
So look at the changes. But this is not the first time the world has changed. If we look at the record business, back the music business, how that's changed. The cab business, how that's changed. Everything's changed. We're not alone. It's time for us to embrace it and work with it and become part of it. Ride that wave. Don't get caught up in the wave.
Yeah.
Right.
Great advice. Yeah. Look for the opportunity as change is coming, and that's actually a good thing. And so where can you grow from that, and how can you benefit? Such a great perspective and mindset. All right, Vivian, I could keep talking to you for an hour, but we're coming to the point here. I want to respect your time. You ready for the rapid fire part of the talk here?
Was it rapid fire?
Rapid fire. We got 3 quick questions here for you.
Okay.
All right. So first one is, which book has had the biggest impact on your business or wealth creation?
Oh my goodness. Okay. The first book that comes to my mind is the very first book that I was asked to read or told to read back when I first got my licenses. It was a book. What was it called? Hold on. Think and Grow Rich.
Got it. Yeah.
By Napoleon Hill. I'll never forget that book. We were given that. That was, one of the first seminars I went to. And this was the first book that we were told to read. So I read that book. That book stuck to me. And I thought, okay, that's probably the book that stands out first in my mind.
Yeah, that was one of my starting books as well. So anybody that's getting it, 100%. Yeah. Anybody that's getting into entrepreneurship, highly recommend it. Next question here is, how would others describe you in 3 words? If you had 3 different words, how would they describe you?
I'm a good listener. I think that would describe me pretty good. And I've got a lot of passion. As you can see, that's the Italian in me. The passion comes out, the European passion, the woman passion. And I can be a little obsessive, controlling, obsessive, but that's part of who I am, and I can't stop that. I try and hold back with it, but it's who I am.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you have high standards. And that's where obsessive, I think, is like on the right things. Very good. And last question is, what advice would you give your younger self?
Don't worry what people think about you. That would probably say to me that stopped me from doing what I thought I could do it at a young age, is always worried about what people are going to think. What are people going to think? Who cares what people are going to think? They're going to think about it anyways. Who cares? It's what you think. It's who you care about that thinks. But stop worrying about what other people are going to think about you.
Vivian, such wisdom shared on this. I know the listeners got a lot of value from it. So thanks for coming on the show here. Thanks for today. It was awesome.
You're the best. Oh my God. You know what? You could do this for a living. I think you should be considering.
Well, if I keep getting guests like you on, 100%, everybody wants to hear this kind of value. So
No, you're too good at doing what you do already. So you know what? This is just add this to your list of great things that you do, and keep doing what you're doing, Mark. It was a pleasure being part of this, and it's been lots of fun. Thank you.
Thanks again, Vivian. Well, I want to invite you guys back to our next show where we talk with and dive deep with the most successful entrepreneurs in our marketplace. And I want to invite you guys to come back. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.